sente bem e, pô, não me atrapalha em nada.
Your ingredient label reads 100% bitch made from Nigeria.
This is Johnny with Tiger Bomb MMA, and today I'm going over UFC 287, Pereira versus Adesanya. Listed here as 2, but it's actually 4, and giving my thoughts and predictions on the entire card. Honestly, going to be a half-assed predictions video today. I'm on vacation. As you can tell, I got some like pretty shitting behind me. But let's get started with the first fight of the night. We've got Sam Hughes versus the newcomer Jacqueline Amorim. Amorim is a LFA champion making her debut, black belt in jiu-jitsu. Right off the bat, Sam Hughes, did I misspell her name? Whatever. Sam Hughes, tough. She's going to be the bigger girl. She's strong. She trains out of Fortis MMA. She's got a chance here to win. The odds have her currently, let's take a look at the odds on her. Actually, for sure she's the underdog. She is currently listed as a plus 200 for Sam Hughes. Comeback on Jacqueline Amorim is a minus 250. Right off the bat, I'll just say it, like, I'm not interested in betting this fight other than the possible prop for Jacqueline via submission. She's a submission machine. All of her wins are either submission or some knockouts. I think she knocked out some broad in LFA in like 10 seconds. But between you and me, it was an early stoppage. But Amorim here, as you can tell, she's pretty hot. She's got that going for her. The issue I have with her, all of her wins have been in the first round relatively easily. I don't think I've ever seen her have any adversity other than when that Nigerian buff man woman grabbed the cage on her a few times and she got a knee bar on her eventually. The issue overall is that Sam Hughes might be a live dog depending on the fact if where's she from? I think American Top Team prospect here in Amorim gasses out if she can't get her takedowns, because Sam Hughes, although she gave up really easy takedowns against Pyre, La Fiera, I don't know how well Jacqueline is going to perform against UFC caliber competition. I can at least say that about Sam Hughes. She has some UFC wins under her belt. And something that I wrote down was that despite the fact that Amorim is a better fighter, period, she's got the better skills, cardio and honestly confidence can go a long way in the women's division in the UFC. So that does concern me a bit here, is that if, say, for example, Amorim gets a little too hyped, she blows her load, and then Sam Hughes can take over and get a sneaky split decision. I'm going to go still with Amorim. I think she will get that submission. I'm going to say round number 2, just because I think round number 1 is going to be a little dominant, but Sam Hughes survives. She's not terrible. Sam Hughes is getting slowly better. That plus 200 price tag is tempting, but I'm going to stay away from it. I might just take Amorim by a submission prop, possibly round 1, just to go with the flow. But overall, I'm staying away from this one, but I'll go with Jacqueline round number 2. But I'm weary about this one. Next bout, we've got Steve Garcia versus Nuerdanbieke, and taking place at featherweight. I was a little suspect about this fight just because of the price tag on Nuerdanbieke. He's minus 225. Come back on Steve Garcia plus 180. I'm thinking Steve Garcia plus 180 is not terrible. Like, I know the ins and outs of Steve Garcia. He's a tough dog with a bad chin, and he's sloppy. He's hittable, but he is still a dog, and he could definitely make this fight a lot closer than what the odds say it should be. The thing with him is that he beat the crap out of a twink his last time out in Chase Hooper. He made it look a little too easy, but he still looked very sloppy. He didn't show anything new that would give me the confidence to say that the plus 180 is like a good price tag to take on him. To me, I'm passing on this one. It's not necessarily a dogger pass. For me, I'm just not confident in Nuerdanbieke to necessarily hold him down, which I do think he's going to be the obviously stronger grappler. He's going to try to knock him out. I'll give him that. Blonde Nuerdanbieke, as of late, he's been showing more willingness to stand, and I think because we all saw what happened with Steve Garcia and Meerschaert, which, funny enough, I've heard rumblings that Meerschaert and Nuerdanbieke are cousins, and they're training to knock out Steve Garcia just like he did, his cousin did. I can't trust Steve Garcia. He's unreliable, but I do think he's got a good shot here to win this fight. When he starts laying it on guys, it's entertaining, but just those in-between moments where his chin is up in the air and he's super unreliable. I've got some rumblings in the Discord, guys. Swordsong, you said, it's going to make it look a little easy. He's like your favorite guy. I'm a little uncomfortable betting him. Meerschaert, that is. Or sorry, Nuerdanbieke. They're cousins, so it's fine. I'm going to go with Meerschaert. I'm going to say he's going to knock him out in the first round just because Steve Garcia is very, very, hittable, very chinny. I'm staying away from it overall. Just Nuerdanbieke, I like what I've seen from him so far. Although he's not the most impressive guy, I do like his wrestling background. I like the way he's able to reverse good grapplers himself. The issue is that Steve Garcia is a big boy, 6 foot tall compared to the 5'8" of Nuerdanbieke, which kind of gives me that, like, sometimes size is enough. And yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I'll go with Nuerdanbieke round number 1 knockout. Next bout, Trey Ogden, Ignacio Bahamondes. This is just getting fucking ridiculous. Trey Ogden was supposed to fight Loco Torres. He pulled out. Now we got Ignacio Bahamondes. I forgot who Ignacio was supposed to fight. So let me check, actually. I think it was a fight that he should have easily won. It would have been Nicholas Mota. Yeah, he would have beat the shit out of Mota. This presents a bit of a dilemma for Ignacio Bahamondes because he is such a good striker, Trey Ogden. He doesn't have James Krause in his corner anymore to, tell him, hey, we're down a round. We're going to lose our house if you don't go out there and perform. So Trey Ogden, to me, he is one of the worst submission guys. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, I think, but he's like, gets submitted all the time. Bahamondes, tall, lanky guy, good striker. He pulled a stunt in his UFC debut, but as of late, he's just kind of been more comfortable in the UFC octagon, getting better and better. I like Bahamondes, period. The odds currently have him as a minus 290. I don't like those odds at all. The issue with that price tag is that Trey Ogden could potentially pull something out of his ass. He is a decent enough veteran. We saw what he did to Zell Huber, where he just kind of froze him up a little bit. I don't think Ignacio's going to freeze. I think he's going to throw everything at him. It's just that how good is Bahamondes' takedown defense and his submission defense? It's fine. His actual submission offense is pretty good himself. He got Zurong in the Barbo choke, the Darce choke, essentially, in his last fight out. I don't like the price tag, but I think Bahamondes wins this one. I don't think Trey Ogden's, he hasn't been knocked out ever. He's been submitted. I'll go with the decision prop. I don't see Bahamondes knocking him out. I would love to see him knocked out. Something about Trey Ogden getting knocked out is like on my bingo card this year. I don't think it'll happen, but this is the best shot. I'll go with Bahamondes by a decision overall. I think he's just going to be the cleaner, better striker. He'll probably defend takedowns by attacking the chokes. He's got those long-ass arms, 75.5-inch reach. Trey Ogden's been submitted before. Possibility that he can get submitted again, but I'll go with the decision prop here. All right, next bout. Women's, is it strawweight? Because what's her face? Calvillo keeps going up and down. Yeah, she's going back down to strawweight. Cynthia Calvillo versus Lupita Godinez. And plus 210 on Calvillo. Comeback on Godinez is a minus 270. Godinez looked pretty bad her last fight out, despite looking fantastic against Ariane Carnelosi. The humidity got her, man. The humidity in San Diego got her. She looked pretty stationary. She didn't look comfortable in there. She looked like there was something off with her. She looked very good, like maybe the first few minutes, and then Angela Hill just kind of took over. Calvillo, on the other hand, she moved up to strawweight, or no, she moved up to flyweight. She looked kind of shitty. She only got a win over Jessica Ai. After that, it was just downhill. She's looking like a shell of her former self, despite only, oh, wow, I thought she was younger. She's 35 years old. Whoa. She will be the bigger girl here, which was concerning at that price tag of the plus 210. I just do not like what I have seen from Cynthia Calvillo. It looks bad. Like everything I've seen, her dropping down to strawweight again. I think that the cut is going to just be too much for her. She's been stopped by a body shot before, and I think she's going to get stopped by a body shot here again. I think Godinez is the better wrestler. I think she's going to have the submission defense. She's going to have the better striking. And overall, I just think she's going to be the better fighter. So I'll go with Godinez by a second-round TKO body shot. Next bout, we've got Gerald Meerschaert versus Joe Pyre. And let's see what the odds are on this middleweight bout. We've got, I think they skipped the fight. They might have missed it around. But we've got GM3 minus Actually, plus 155. Come back on Joe Pyre minus 180. Joe Pyre should win this one by knockout in the first round, possibly the second round. I don't know if it's going to be that easy, just because Joe Pyre, for whatever reason, gives me the impression that he's just not as good as what we expect him to look like. Something about him, he looks a little flat and stationary to me sometimes, and I'm a little weary about this one. I'm very weary about putting the chalk on Pyre to beat the very oddly chinny yet not chinny yet sometimes iron chinned GM3. That pisses me off about GM3 is that he beats guys he should get knocked out by. Then he looks really bad against guys he should beat. And then he loses to guys that lost on PFL recently and Christoph Jotko. And then he beats a guy like Bruno Silva. Bruno Silva. What the fuck? GM3, like that's why I'm always like, what's going on here? I'll give it to Bruno Silva though. Like it also happened to be the same night that Lupita Godinez fought. The humidity probably got to him, and the fact that the champion at that division took his soul. In this particular fight, though, despite my worrisome nature about Gerald Meerschaert, he is still a very unathletic, very unexplosive, very chinny guy. He just happens to have the most submissions in middleweight history, and he's got a very solid left body kick. Joe Pyre, though, although I think the fate is coming on him, I don't really like the price tag, the minus 180 on Pyre. I'll probably take him by finish, but overall, I'm just going to stay away from this fight. If I end up putting it on a parlay, it might be like doesn't go the distance. That way it covers Gerald Meerschaert getting a submission over body bags here. But yeah, for me, it's going to be Joe Pyre for round number 2 knockout. Like reason for round number 2 is because Gerald Meerschaert, although he's unathletic and unimpressive, he has a way to maintain a certain distance and a certain pace that can more than likely stifle Joe Pyre for that first round. Joe Pyre wasn't necessarily the most like willingness to engage against Amorim in his first fight in the UFC. He eventually got the knockout, not looking for the knockout. When he was looking for the knockout, he would get himself out of place. He would throw fastballs with that overhand right. I didn't really like what I saw. But yeah, I do think he eventually settles down in the second round against a big name like Gerald Meerschaert. Say what you want about Gerald Meerschaert. He is a very big name, especially with that record in the UFC. But I'll go second round knockout for Joe Pyre. Next up, Carl Williams versus Chase Sherman. This should have been something about Tapology is all jacked up. But Carl Williams versus Chase Sherman. I'm not going to spend too much time on this one. Chase Sherman plus 385. Worth a shot, 100%. Carl Williams, he's a minus 500. He is not minus 500 caliber, even against Chase Sherman. Say what you want about Chase, and I have said everything there is to say about Chase Sherman. Dude breaks under. I've seen this man break mentally too many times in the cage. Like he gets hit and he just goes blank. He goes like Gomer Pyle in Full Metal Jacket. Like I'm surprised he hasn't blown his brains out inside of a bathroom. But Chase Sherman kicks very hard, very good low kicks. He hits hard. The issue with Carl Williams, though, is that he's fighting very short notice, although he's going to have the wrestling and grappling advantage here. He's a big boy. Chase Sherman has fought better wrestlers, and I do think it might lead to Chase Sherman keeping it on the feet enough for him to land some solid low kicks that I guarantee you, if they land, will slow down Carl Williams. I'm going to take Williams by decision just because I cannot pick Chase Sherman to win this fucking fight. The Vanilla Gorilla versus the I'll leave it at that. I'm probably going to take a shot on Chase Sherman at the plus 385 odds. Like it's worth a shot to me. I'll probably put like half a unit or maybe even a unit. But Carl Williams minus 500 is not where it's at. Like he did not look uber impressive against Bresky, although he did do what he needed to do against Bresky at a minus like 170 price tag was fantastic. Minus 500 is a slap in the face to me against a guy like Chase Sherman, which minus 500 should be, for example, against guys like Volkov or any other heavyweight, but just not Carl Williams. Ridiculous. So yeah, I'm going to take Williams as a pick, but I'm going to take a shot on Chase Sherman. Next bout, Michelle Waterson Gomez versus Luana Pinheiro. I was looking at this one because I'm like, Luana, she's left like a really sour taste in my mouth. She hasn't really fought in a while. Her last fight was against Sam Hughes, which was like, bitch, do something. Go do something. when she would do something, it looked impressive. Like she would blitz her, she dropped her in the second round, she would bitch flip her. It was great. It was fantastic. She's a black belt in jiu-jitsu and judo. There's a lot to like about Luana. It's just that she's been away for about a year and a half. On Instagram, I saw her wearing a knee brace. It's like very concerning. She's minus 165 compared to Michelle Waterson plus 140. Michelle Waterson, say what you want about her. Like, she is active. Last fought 8 months ago against Amanda Lemos, where she stole around to Lemos, barely. Like, nothing really happened. Lemos probably going to fight for the title here soon. Michelle Waterson, she's got a very sneaky, crafty style to win decisions. And if she can get Luana to the ground or reverse Luana or just do enough on the feet, she could definitely sneak out this decision victory. But what I've seen from Luana, though, when she's on, she's impressive. She can steal rounds. She's very good at implementing your physicality. I have to go with Pinheiro to win this decision. I'm not betting it. I'm not touching it. It's not worth it. Neither girl, 37 years old in Waterson compared to the 29 in Pinheiro. Had this been Pinheiro, say, for example, she fought recently, like less than a year ago, and not injured, I'd be all over Pinheiro. But despite the fact that I find her unimpressive, other than like those little spurts in the octagon, like her going to a decision with Sam Hughes is not, like a very close decision with Sam Hughes is not optimal for me. I'm going to take Pinheiro to win. I think she will control Waterson on the ground. I think she'll have good moments on the feet, but it's not the fight to bet for me, so I'm staying away from it, but I'll go Pinheiro decision. This is the prelim main event, Kelvin Gastelum versus Chris Curtis, and I've been going back and forth with this one just because in middleweight, Chris Curtis only lost once. He lost to a guy. Actually, they both lost to the same guy. They lost to Jack Hermanson. One lost a little bit more spectacularly than the other. This one's interesting just mainly because Chris Curtis, surprisingly enough, is going to be the older guy, despite the fact that he doesn't really look like the older guy. He's 35 compared to the 31 of Kelvin. Kelvin's been fighting for like 10 plus years, man, in the UFC. He's had it rough. He's lost to the best in that division. People who have either fought for the title, champions, former champions. Ridiculous. Like, the guy's not had the best luck and recently pulled out. I think he got staph infection or his mouth got busted. I don't remember, but he's still Kelvin Gastelum. I just don't know if he's completely shot yet. The odds are minus 125 for Kelvin. Come back on Chris Curtis is a plus 105. And Curtis, say what you want about Curtis, like, he's solid. He's got 100% takedown defense. Good boxing, good defense. Primarily, that's his thing, is his defense. My issue with Curtis is that you can't outpoint him by sticking and moving. Buckley did it. Hermanson did it. When you try to fight him and push him and take him down, it gets a little harder because he gets the better offense on you. Kelvin Gastelum, very good wrestler. Kelvin Gastelum, good boxer. Kelvin Gastelum, good movement. It's going to be tough. I do think this one's going to go to a decision, and it covers you in both ways because, Chris Curtis is defensively sound. I don't think Kelvin's going to be able to land that knockout shot, that beautiful, like, leap in left hand. Curtis, good boxing, heavy hands. Kelvin's got the excellent chin. So I think the over or the decision prop, really, I don't know if you can go wrong going either way on the decision. Obviously, one guy has to lose, but whatever value you see, I do think that it's going to go to a decision. Chris Curtis by decision, Kelvin Gastelum by decision. It just really depends on which Gastelum we see and which Chris Curtis we see. We see Chris Curtis like we saw against Newmanson Buckley, kind of laying back and waiting for that knockout shot. He's going to lose this fight. He's not going to knock out Kelvin. Kelvin's going to outpoint him. If Kelvin, for whatever reason, looks like a shell of himself against Curtis, he's going to lose this fight just because if Curtis starts landing the heavier shots on him, maybe bloodies him up, there's no way they're going to give him the decision. You know what? I'm going to go. Let me look here, man. Because both these guys are essentially middleweights. Kelvin, I'm gonna stick with the Kelvin. I'm not confident in it. I really do think Chris has a good shot at winning this one. It's 50-50 to me. Pick-wise, I'm going Kelvin Gastelum decision. Betting-wise, I might just go like over 2.5, or the fight goes to a decision. I don't see a finish on either end. If Kelvin, for whatever reason, is the first man to take down Curtis and submits him, that'd be some shit. That'd be ridiculous. I don't see it happening, though. Curtis has got some really good takedown defense. So I'll go with Gastelum by a decision. It's mostly more of like I'm hoping Gastelum gets back on track instead of like using my head, because I think it's such a close fight. I think it's going to be a very close fight for the judges. And, it's going to be in Miami. That might give it to the Puerto Rican looking guy. Why not? I'll go with Kelvin Gastelum by a decision. Next bout, the that's the prelim opener. The main card opener, we've got Raul Rosas Jr. versus Christian Rodriguez. The odds are fucking inflated, I bet. What are the odds for this? I don't want to call him what I wanted to call him. Minus 250 for Rosas. Come back on Christian Rodriguez plus 200. I've said it from the beginning. I'm on the Christian Rodriguez train right now. The 18-year-old in Rosas, he looked very impressive in his UFC debut. He beat a guy that I didn't think he was going to beat that easily in Jay Perrin. Submitted him very easily. Christian Rodriguez, on the other hand, I just think he's looked way more impressive. I'll give it to Raul Rosas. He's very confident in himself. That confidence leads to him actually less thinking, more doing type of mentality. Like, he's not been knocked out. He's never been hurt. It's kind of like, I'm unstoppable. So if I go for the takedown, I'm going to get the takedown. If I don't get the takedown, I'll go for another takedown. I don't think it's going to be that easy. I think Christian Rodriguez is going to step some takedowns, and I think he's going to be landing some serious knees to the jaw of Raul Rosas. He might actually fix his lisp with those knees. Christian Rodriguez, to me, I just think he's just the more polished guy. And what I do worry about is sometimes the more polished guy doesn't always win. It's just the guy who does what he needs to do. Raul Rosas has that in his back pocket that he can just continuously go for the takedowns. Rodriguez's takedown defense isn't the best, although he did fight in the Contender Series, Tracy Cortez's brother, who's an accomplished wrestler himself, and he was stuffing those takedowns pretty easily. He was beating the shit out of that younger, or I don't know if he's a younger Cortez, but the male baby Cortez. I like Christian. I think he's just a much better fighter, much cleaner on the feet. Definitely worth me potentially losing to this Raul Rosas Jr. for that plus 200 price tag. I'm going to take a shot on Rodriguez at the plus 200. And I only say a shot because he's such a significant 2-1 underdog that, to me, it's a little weird. I think it should be aligned a little bit closer. I don't know how good Raul Rosas really is. He's been dominant against some guys he should beat. He's beaten a UFC guy, although he's never had a UFC win. So who's to say? You know what I mean? Like, he got rid of Jay Perrin. Christian Rodriguez is not Jay Perrin. Christian Rodriguez will fight. He fought a guy short notice and gave a ton of people scares, man. He got, what's his name? I can't remember his fucking name. That douchebag. His only loss, Jonathan Pierce. He got him in a couple chokes. He made Jonathan Pierce work that night. Like, he gave a lot of people a lot of scares, and rumblings were that he wasn't even training for that fight. So now that he's actually training for a guy less experienced than him, although I think they have very similar records, right? 7-0 against 8-1. The 8-1 of Rodriguez, to me, is much better. Just the cleaner striking. No brainer for me. I'm taking Christian Rodriguez. I will take him by, I want to say decision, but I do think he's got a good chance to knock out Raul Rosas or possibly submit him. You know what? I'm going to go with submission. I think it'll humble his ass. I'll say round number 2, I think he takes a sloppy shot after getting stuffed on takedowns, and he gets caught in a guillotine. He's got a nasty guillotine, C-Rod does. So I'll go Raul Rosas. He goes to sleep in round number 2. Not taps. He's not going to tap. I don't think he's going to get knocked out because although, he's Mexican, he's got a Mexican chin. That additional chin that he has on there, it is a bit concerning and terrifying. So I will stay away from betting the knockout prop. I'll say submission round number 2 for Christian Rodriguez. Next bout, Kevin Holland versus Santiago Ponzinibbio. I'll keep this one brief. Ponzinibbio has looked really bad as of late. He's been getting hurt by Moreno, getting dropped. Granted, he's coming back, and he came back and won that fight via knockout. Kevin Holland's going to knock him out, or he's just going to finish him outright. Kevin Holland, although he's on a 2-fight losing streak, looked absolute shit against Wonderboy. Pissed me off because he had that fight won. If he would have taken him down and kept him down, I think he would have submitted Wonderboy, or at least compromised him enough so the striking on the feet would have been a lot closer. I'm still going with Kevin Holland here. Kevin Holland is, let's see his price tag. Kevin Holland is minus 275. Comeback on Ponzinibbio is a plus 210. I think Kevin Holland inside the distance is to play for me. I think he does knock him out. He's going to have the longer reach. He's going to have the more youthfulness in his side. Just that, I think that reach advantage, the 81 inches compared to 73, it's done deal. Ponzinibbio is going to get knocked out. Ponzinibbio, if he attacks the legs early of Kevin Holland, he's got a good shot to maybe slow him down, maybe compromise him enough to get a TKO. But I think Kevin Holland, if he doesn't act like a moron like he's been doing lately, I think he's got this one easily. So I'll go Kevin Holland round number 1 knockout. Might even be a submission. Because of that, I'm not taking any props like knockout or submission, just inside the distance for Kevin Holland. I think he gets the job done pretty, I hate to say easily, but pretty easily. Next bout, Rob Font versus Adrian Yanez. The odds have it in favor of Yanez minus 180. Comeback on Font is a plus 150. It's a tale as old as time, the Mexican boxer versus the Puerto Rican boxer. And for this one, you know, the narrative is going to be Adrian Yanez is quote unquote Mr. Knockout. He's been knocking out nearly everybody in the UFC that he's fought, but they've been giving him little baby steps each way. And every time he gets like a slightly better opponent, it shows some like issues with Adrian Yanez. Like he's primarily the boxer. He doesn't really mix things up very well. And I hate to bring this fight up with Randy Costa, but Randy Costa was lighting him up with a jab. He was just faster than him. He was just beating him to the punch. Randy Costa, for God's sakes. I don't know if it was just that Adrian Yanez was like, that's my buddy. We're internet Twitter beefing. Ha ha ha. And he just wanted to be a little bit like friendly with him, but he looked pretty bad. Like, yeah, Costa slowed down. What happens if he doesn't slow down? You know what I mean? He fought Davey Grant. Davey Grant took him to a split decision. And I thought Davey Grant did pretty well against Adrian Yanez. And then he fought Tony Kelly after that. How do you go from fucking Davey Grant to Tony Kelly? And yeah, he knocked out Tony Kelly, but he was supposed to do that. He's not on the level. Now he's fighting Rob Font, a guy who, yeah, he got pretty busted up his last 2 fights against Jose Aldo and Chito Vera. But damn, do I not think that Rob Font has a good shot here at the plus 150. And I've been thinking that since it got announced. I'm like, I think Rob Font might give him a lesson in like point fighting, essentially. I think Rob Font, he's got his issues, right? He gets hurt a lot. He gets marked up pretty badly. I think if Rob Font is the faster guy, he implements a much smarter game plan here. And I mean, he gets on his bike, he jabs him up. I think he can frustrate Adrian Yanez and lead to a decision. Can Rob Font knock out Yanez? Potentially, if he lands like a good combination, like body, head, and like they're both throwing like left hooks. I think Rob Font might be a little bit faster than him and catch him clean. It's just that he's going to be playing with fire with Adrian Yanez inside the pocket. I don't think he's going to even attempt to get inside the pocket. I think he's going to mix up takedowns, push him up against the cage. I do think Rob Font's going to have a veteran type performance here. Like he can't lose to a guy like Adrian Yanez. He's going from former champion and Jose Aldo and possible title contender in Chito Vera to Adrian Yanez, a guy who hasn't really fought really anyone top level in the UFC. This is his biggest step up for Yanez against Rob Font. Rob Font, say what you want about him, he's a very good fighter. Yeah, he's aging. He's 35 years old. I just really do think that Rob Font has a good chance. You can hedge your bets like this. You can go Rob Font decision, which is probably what I'm going to bet, or obviously Adrian Yanez knockout. I do think Yanez, if he catches him clean, won't necessarily put his lights out, but he'll damage him enough and follow up with shots on the ground to get that TKO. So those are probably the 2 props I might bet on this particular fight. We'll see which one's better. I don't necessarily have the actual props quite yet, but I do like Rob Font by a decision. It's like I'm playing with fire here with betting against Yanez, a guy who can knock out majority of the people in the UFC in that division, more so just with that, combination striking that he has. But I do think Rob Font is going to avoid essentially fighting right here. It's not going to be pretty. I think Rob Font might be jabbing him up, throwing kicks from the outside. He's going to be the longer guy. I think the faster guy, and Yanez might get a little frustrated, might get a little overzealous, rush in, and then Font just pops him a little bit, gets on his bike, skirts around the cage, and he leads to a decision. You might get some boos from the crowd, but I think overall, Rob Font might get that decision. Like, I like Yanez. I want him to win. It's just he needs that UFC loss, and I think it's coming here. So I'll go with Rob Font by a decision. Next about co-main event, we've got Gilbert Burns versus Jorge Masvidal. And last I checked, Burns was like, minus 500, come back on Masvidal plus 360. Although I've got a bit of a weird Masvidal thing going right now. I'm picking against him, obviously. Like, he's talking about retirement. He hasn't looked the same in a long time. Gilbert Burns not minus 500, so don't put him on any parlays because Jorge can knock him out. Burns has been knocked out by jabs. Jorge, say what you want about him, old piece of shit, attacked the greatest of all time in Colby Covington outside of a Miami restaurant. He's probably going to go to jail. He's probably going to lose some money. Deadbeat dad. Say what you want about the guy. Plus 360 on Masvidal. Pretty good. It's not bad. Like, Gilbert Burns is going to try to take him down. If he can't knock him out, can he hold him down? Like, realistically, all right, Jorge Masvidal has decent jiu-jitsu, pretty decent wrestling, get-up game. I remember seeing Jorge Masvidal back when he had that buzz cut, and he fought Damian Maia. Damian Maia couldn't really do anything with him. Like, I really do think Masvidal's got a good chance here to beat Gilbert Burns if he lands the right shots. So it's like, that's why I'm like, stay away from betting Gilbert Burns. Don't put him on any parlays. I think if you're going to do anything, bet Masvidal inside the distance. I do think he can knock out Gilbert Burns. But realistically, though, I think Gilbert Burns will be able to, like, decision Masvidal. I do also think he can knock out Masvidal. Like, Gilbert Burns hits pretty fucking hard. If Masvidal gets a little, too swaggy in there, I think Gilbert Burns can, like, tuck his chin and just overhand left and right, crack him. I don't know if he's going to submit Masvidal. I absolutely would love to see that. That's like what I'm hoping happens. But I got to be realistic here. And Masvidal can definitely get a knockout against Gilbert Burns. Like, he can really put it on him. I don't care how old he is. He's nearly 40 years old, but the man can still strike. He's very clean. I'm going back and watching some of his striking matchups with, like, Donald Cerrone. And let me tell you, I want some big money on plus money Cerrone at that, or plus money Masvidal. And I'm staying away from it in the Gilbert Burns aspect. I'm going to pick Gilbert Burns to win by decision, but I do think Masvidal's got a chance. I'm going to take a shot. That plus 360 price tag is just too good to not pass up, just for the fact that, like, if he just quickly bam knocks him down, plus 360, why not? So I'll go with Gilbert Burns by decision. I'll probably take a shot on Masvidal, though. And we've got the main event, the fourth encounter between Alex Pereira and Israel Adesanya. Not really much to say about this one because, like, we've seen this fight too many times. We've seen it in the striking aspect 3 times already. We've seen Alex Pereira get the decisions and the knockouts over Israel Adesanya. That's a lot on a guy's mind in Israel for him to think to himself, like, I've not beaten this guy. And now he's going to have to literally wrestle the man. Like, yeah, he had his shot against Alex in the first round where he wobbled him, but he didn't capitalize. He could have done that sooner. We've got 2 options here for Adesanya. And actually, before I get into that, what are the odds on these boys? Plus 120 for the champion in Pereira, which I get it. And minus 145 for Adesanya, which I also get. I understand, because one of the 2 ways that Adesanya can fight here, clearly mixing the takedowns, which he did have some success in the 3rd, I believe, round, where he kind of essentially dominated Alex. Alex really couldn't do anything, and that was like some sloppy wrestling. Or he can be a little bit more aggressive and more powerful with those shots against Alex. Like, I really don't know what mentality Israel's going to have in there, because all the chips are with Alex right now. I don't think Alex even gives a fuck if he loses this fight. Like, he can get knocked out, he can get submitted, he can get decisioned. I don't really think he cares. Like, he definitely still wants to be champion. Like, paychecks are nice, right? I think he's fulfilled everything he needs to do. Like, there's nothing that could happen to Alex that will make him look bad. Like, he beat Izzy, he knocked him out in the UFC, took his belt, and then everything again comes back to Adesanya. Like, you had to wrestle me like a bitch to beat me. You had to do this or that. It all lies on Israel. Like, he has to make the adjustments to beat the man he can't beat. I'm seeing a lot of negative things from Israel, though. Like, he's getting face tattoos. I definitely know he's training his wrestling. But now that Glover's retired, what's his number 1 priority? Alex Pereira. So think of that. Think of Alex Pereira with a full-time Glover Teixeira training him more detailed grappling. Like shit, that takedown that Pereira got on the second round against Israel was pretty fucking nice. The ducked under for that blast double, and he took him down. He held him down. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Alex goes for his own takedowns and tries to go for a submission. We know who has the power advantage consistently. It's going to be Alex. Yes, Israel can knock out Alex. It's just more so, how is he going to perform against the scary monster that he can't beat? And knowing now that potentially, I don't know if it's photoshopped or not, but Alex is wearing the Chuck Liddell hair, the mohawk, and the like goatee. That is to me the final boss and the final evolution of Alex Pereira, the brawl, the sprawl and brawl Alex Pereira. I think that's what he's hinting at. He's going to sprawl and brawl in this fight, and if he does, it's going to be interesting. Just because, like, I know Israel was winning that fight 4-1, essentially, or 3-1, 3 rounds to 1, and then Alex went over there and just did what he had to do to knock him out. The other aspect is that it was primarily a kickboxing bout, the first UFC MMA bout between the two. And because of that, like, Alex wasn't necessarily accustomed to that high level kickboxing affair like Israel was. Israel primarily would do that. Now that he's more comfortable with the kickboxing and just getting his surroundings more comfortable with his surroundings, I think it's going to be more so Alex taking over, having the bigger, cleaner shots. I'm going to have to still go with Alex Pereira just because he has everything in his favor. I know he can lose this fight just because I know how good Israel is. I'm not sitting here and telling people, no, he was losing that whole fight. Israel was winning the fight. Mix in the grappling, he's got a good chance. But if you don't finish Alex Pereira, he's going to find a way. And how good is Israel's chin? How good is this going to be? Like, I went back and rewatched that fight, and there were numerous occasions where that left hook nearly landed, where certain little strikes could have literally decapitated Israel. And I think with Alex being more comfortable, him being more comfortable with the takedown defense, now that Glover's like 100% on him, I think we might see a much better version of Alex Pereira, along with a much more diverse version of Israel Adesanya going for takedowns and trips and such. It's just, is it going to be enough to beat the unbeatable guy for Israel? I'm going to stick with Alex Pereira. I'll say second round knockout for Alex. I would love it if Alex just retired completely. He said, I'm done. I did everything I needed to do. And that would kind of like cement the fact that he's the world's greatest hater, where he's like, I beat you too many times. You ain't shit to me. I am done. One day you're going to be in a pub looking at the TV at pictures of me and saying, I fought that guy once. And that's going to be the end of Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira's story. If Adesanya comes back and beats him, credit to him. Like, I'm not sitting here telling you it's not possible. It is very much possible. It's just the fact that the mentality of Israel right now is not where I need it to be. I don't think he's like as headstrong as Alex. The other thing about Alex, he has been like posting a lot of memes and just kind of like posting videos of him reacting to shit that Izzy's doing, which I think is funny, but it also is like, are you also just doing that just to fuck with him, or are you actually doing that? I'm leaning more on he's doing it just to fuck with him. And that kind of gives you the idea that he's got the mental edge here. So I'll go with Pereira round number 2 knockout. I think he comes out here looking significantly better. I know how good he is as now, but I do think that having full-time coach Glover Teixeira is going to put him into like a much better level. Like, I know he's the champion now, but I think he's going to be like, oh shit, he can actually give these guys with wrestling backgrounds a lot of trouble. And I'm expecting that fully. So I'll go with round number 2, Pereira knockout. Those are my predictions for this entire card. Leave comments below. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think on these fights that are really close. Like, for example, like Christian Rodriguez versus Raul Rosas. Although the odds themselves are not close, I do think it's a much closer fight. For example, also Luana Pinheiro versus Michelle Waterson. I'd like to know what you guys think on that. I really need to know what the majority of the people thinking about Chris Curtis versus Kelvin Gastelum, because the narrative is obviously Kelvin's losing fights and Curtis is winning fights, but I think it's a little closer than that. I know the odds themselves are close, but I just think that I just don't necessarily fully have the belief that Kelvin's fully washed, and I don't necessarily have the full belief that Chris Curtis is like this, UFC championship caliber fighter. Like, he's listed number 14 right now, but can he crack the top 10? We'll see what happens. Like, Kelvin's cracked the top 10 before. My worries about that is that can he crack it again? Maybe not, but can Chris Curtis crack the top 10? He's getting older. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Johnny Tiger Bomb may catch you next fight.